Well, have you ever dreamed of writing a book? Our next guest did something about it, and his dream came true in a very big way when Christian White's story won the prestigious Victorian Premier's Literary Award. Oh my God, it's Wednesday.
It's a long way to literary.
The Nowhere Child is published this week, and Christian is on the panel with his brand new book.
Thanks for having me. Exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How long in the making was this book?
It took, from start to finish, took around 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, a big part of that was planning, and with thrillers you've got all these moving pieces, and so there's a lot of planning that went into it. But then, yeah, when I actually sat down to write, yeah, around 2 years. I was writing between casual jobs, so it was nights and weekends and stuff like that. So I had to sort of a little longer than I would have liked.
What sort of casual jobs?
I've worked just this ridiculous list of casual jobs. I was printing T-shirts most recently. I drove a little food cart around a golf course selling sandwiches and stuff like that, which is weird. I picked apples years ago. The weirdest one though is that I did work briefly as a video editor for an adult film company.
Oh. Hello.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the classiest way to say it. Yeah. I'll give you the details afterwards.
I mean, the struggling writer is almost a cliche, but this is an incredibly prestigious award, probably the most prestigious government award.
It's a big one, yeah.
This is your first book.
Yeah.
How did your life change when suddenly...
It completely flipped. So this time, about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, I was really I was super poor. I was working all these weird jobs, just kind of planning a month in advance with my money, you know, and hopefully I'll get these credit card bills. And then all of a sudden, as soon as the VPLA, as soon as the shortlist came out, actually, all these publishers who I dreamed of approached me. So it was just really...
So when you won the award, this was unpublished.
This was unpublished,
So the award was for an unpublished manuscript, and then...
and then all of a sudden you've got agents and publishers and all these people getting in touch with you, and you just externally act like it's really normal and cool, and then you go privately go and scream and cry somewhere, which is basically what I did.
It is such a good book. I get jealous when I see talent like this on the page.
Oh, I love
Someone
that.
puts this down for their first book. It's a thriller.
Yes.
And it involves a child kidnapping. I'm not going to sort of give too much away. Where did the seed of the idea come from?
The seed of the idea. So it's basically, without spoilers, it's basically about a woman in Melbourne who is approached by this American guy, this accountant, who says he's been investigating this murder, this kidnapping that took place back in the 90s. This little girl, and he says to her, I think you're her. I think that you're that little girl who got kidnapped. And she thinks that's rubbish, but then she kind of starts to delve into her family history a little bit and starts to realise, a few things aren't adding up. Maybe it's true. And so the idea really came from about memories. Came from a weird place, but my Nan has dementia. She's forgetting everything. And I was chatting to her once and I was thinking, have you forgotten me, or have you just forgotten how to access that memory of me? As this became this weird obsession, and then because my brain's weird, then I thought, oh, what if my parents kidnapped me and I can't remember it? And it just sort of came from there.
Wow. And there are actual cases of people growing up in families not knowing...
Yeah, absolutely, just recently there was someone...
That's right.
Yeah,
loving these people as their parents who actually took them.
Yeah, and it's I mean, your parents are the most important people in your life, and then to realise they're, been lying to you is just such an interesting thing.
Jane Harper, who won the same prize as you with her great novel The Dry, has had it snapped up with film rights for Reese Witherspoon and so forth. Now, you've done screenwriting as well.
Yeah.
Would you like to see this as a movie?
Ideally,
and would you like to write the script?
I would. It's a really good question, because obviously I'd love to see it as a movie or a TV show, and if they said, help us write it, I would have to say yes. But weirdly, I'd kind of also like to... Between the manuscript and the final product, the editorial stage, you let other voices into the room, and it really gets stronger with that collaboration. So I sort of think with even more voices, really, if we've got some great talented people writing it, then they could bring something to it that I maybe couldn't.
Who would you like to see in the lead, play the lead role?
That's a really
It's a woman,
good
Joe.
question. Yeah.
Good to see you.
There's
in
a
the
couple
book.
of male parts, but that's a really good question. I don't know. You know, this, if she could do an Australian accent, is Elizabeth, Handmaid's Tale, Elizabeth
Moss.
Yeah.
She
I'm just
can.
really obsessed with
She
her.
did it in New
She
Zealand
did a Kiwi
accent
one.
for Top of the
Yeah,
Lake.
yeah.
She could do it.
Yeah, I can just watch her do anything.
Speaking of The Handmaid's Tale and Margaret Atwood, Lionel Shriver, and a guest on the show just recently, Helen Dale, formerly Demidенko, have all been at the forefront of questions about, which I think is the biggest question at the heart of writing at the moment, which is to what extent a writer is able to, you know, culturally appropriate or inhabit the mind of someone who he or she is not. What are your thoughts on this? There's been, you know, Lionel Shriver has been blistering in saying it is absurd that a writer, you know, a white writer should not be able to inhabit the consciousness of a black person, et cetera, et cetera. You've written, obviously, about a woman.
As a woman, yeah. And it is something that you need to be aware of, I think. I think that, for me, I always envisioned the protagonist as a woman, and I've got a lot of really strong women in my life. I really... So much of the female characters I stole from my wife and my sister and my mum and stuff like that. Culturally appropriated, exactly. But there is something to be aware of. There's this. It's a difficult balance to find because I'm a white dude. Do I have the right to write as a woman? And I am really sensitive to that, and I think that I didn't stop to think about it too much, which I'm sort of glad about. And I'm actually, it's funny because I'm working on my second book at the minute, and there's 2 female protagonists. And again, that's just how the story pops into my head. But it's something to keep in mind.
It'd be pretty boring if all you could do is write from a white
We
man.
need more white men writing about white men.
Exactly, yeah. I think white men, there's been enough stories about white men to last for the next 500 years.
No pressure with book number 2? Just feeling relaxed about that?
No, I'm terrified. Yeah. The pressure is on.
It's good to hear that you're normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Anxiety and absolutely.
There is a New South Wales Premier's Literary Award as well.
Good,
so
fingers crossed.
Well, everyone's saying that you are the next big thing. The name that everyone will know. Christian White's award-winning novel is called The Nowhere Child. It's out now. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, later this morning, Grant Denyer joins us.